When it first happened in 2020, one of the main draws of the Behind the Sims streams was not only to hear news and updates about current games like Sims 4, but also to discuss the future of the franchise, Project Renee. Flash forward to 2025, and the latest event was frankly pretty strange. It focused on Sims 4 base game updates, kits, free play news, and a nod to other games with a very short section on The Sims Labs. In fact, the video lasted only 7 minutes, was pre-recorded, and it really had some interesting points that I think showcases what their strategy is for The Sims going forward. So first, let's start with the rebrand. Now, Sims 4 is not new to rebrands whatsoever, of course. Over the years, we have seen multiple plumb bob changes, main menu changes, and even pack cover rebrands. This rebranding was starkly different than what we saw in 2019. 2019, they featured very dark hues, and now we have a very vibrant blue, a different take on the plumb bob entirely too, which they keep wanting to change. Now, the new Sims 4 main menu features a more minimalist design, but it does center your current household more prominently. It is also strikingly similar to other popular games. In fact, it looks a lot like the Fortnite menu in my opinion. Now, Fortnite has been mentioned in multiple earnings calls by our favorite CEO, Andrew Wilson, so this might not just be a coincidence. I think the rebranding is meant to appeal to fans of live service models, and of course both to mid to younger Gen Z and also Gen Alpha. One plus I will say though is that the ads do feel less prominent, and arguments could be made that this menu is more user friendly. Nonetheless, for some reason it does remind me more of mobile games, and this whole rebranding we're seeing is just part of their broader strategy, trying to draw in younger players ever since Sims 4 went free to enter. We are getting over 70 new items added to the base game. Now, these include new kitchen sets, which is awesome, as well as windows, doors, new swatches for pirate ships, as well as some decent looking casts, I would say, tops, jackets, bike shorts, shoes, and even new and updated hairs. Now, of course, I will cover that base game update in more detail when it arrives on February 4th. The goal, though, I think is making a better first impression. You see, many new players may download The Sims because it's free, trying Sims 4 before buying a pack, and many base game items, let's be honest, just don't hold up. They look outdated, and so by improving the base game, they might get a better impression, thus getting new players to buy more packs. They even bothered to rebuild townie homes, which I find quite interesting. I do again want to maybe go over in more detail, but what I'm interested in is why are they doing this? Now, of course, I would argue another way to make a good first impression is to improve the gameplay mechanics and the bugs in the game. However, like I said, I do see what they're trying to do in making that first aesthetic first impression. Now, another tactic, which is offering more involvement from the community. As expressed by their investor day, they see Sims not just as a game, but as an entertainment platform where social interaction is encouraged. And this goes with continuing creator kits with prominent creators. Obviously, it's a good marketing strategy, but might be more likely to buy and support a creator they like or know. In the meantime, The Sims Labs, which is their form of playtesting, is of course more direct branding. And interestingly enough, it's not just for future games like Renee like I originally thought, but these Sims Labs are also for features within Sims 4. We learned that both the occult switcher and also the apply all makeup option in Create a Sim apparently came from Sims Labs. Thus, they are getting more player involvement, both with the perception and also the actual reality. So in many ways, this is a win-win. It makes the community feel more involved, and it gives the marketing appeal while potentially improving the game too. Now, interestingly, this was also a way to nod to Renee without actually talking about Renee pretty much whatsoever. It was really interesting that after a series of leaks about Renee and increasing confusion about what that project is, they chose not to really give us any updates at all. Honestly, that was one of the strangest omissions in this entire event, and also not talking about Renee during this event becomes even more interesting. Now, we do know that one of the main devs at least has left Project Renee and Maxis entirely. There's probably been some pretty notable leadership changes and perhaps even a pivot in what the game will be. Honestly, there's just too little information to say gameplay for sure, but not talking about it at all was an interesting choice for this event. The focus was very much for now on Sims 4, seeing Sims 4 both as the present game and also the future of the franchise, and also the marketing that we as Simmers get to shape our own game. Now that isn't to say this is all just an illusion, but these are definite strategies, and both the emissions and decisions we saw were highly interesting. Clocking in at just 7 minutes long, the video seemed to appeal to shorter attention spans. In fact, there was almost no time to truly focus on what was being introduced. Yet at the same time, they announced a 25-hour stream on the 4th, seeming to double dip into different audience preferences. And speaking of audience preferences and increasing engagement, as predicted, Sims events are going to continue. What I find so interesting about this latest Sims event that's coming up is that it's supposed to appeal to the nostalgia of past Sims games. Now, I do like this in theory. Some of the items are pretty interesting, including landline phones, an alarm clock, and even a cake with a dancer. Unfortunately though, the landline phones supposedly might not be functional, but regardless of how you feel about events, they are not going anywhere anytime soon. Again, I think they're doing these to increase active users and engagement numbers during certain time periods. It's likely for the investor calls where they report such data. And with upcoming giveaways, new merch lines, and 7 kits in a pretty short period of time, this is indeed a big push for at least more talk about Sims 4. We'll just have to see what happens on February 6th when we get a new roadmap. Apparently it's going to be centered around the theme of motherlode. I could do a separate video on predictions, but of course that is coming pretty soon. Now, while this analysis may sound a little bit cynical, I am looking just at a marketing strategy and why they're doing these things. Certainly it's not all bad news. I welcome more base game items, especially if they are improved. And I do think Sims Labs has some promise, especially if it brought the features like the occult picker. In other words, I think this is a mixed bag. I'm not exactly sure where they're going with all this, but Project Renee remains really strange and elusive, and I'm starting to wonder what's going on. And on the other hand, this 7-minute event told me a lot, but also at the same time, it told me absolutely nothing. So stay tuned. I am looking forward to that base game update and of course the roadmap and to see what all entails. As always, please take care. Thanks for being patient with me, and I will see you in the next video.